Hello and welcome to another episode of TDD as if you meant it. Today we will have an alternative to the design that we created in the previous episode. In the previous episode we observed that this method getGameResult needs a structure to be able to extract this method, because otherwise I would have just three primitives going around and it would be necessary to have these three things always passed like that. So now what I want to do is I want to encapsulate these into a class. Last episode we extracted these with the IDE and we just extracted them as usual, basic thing. And another thing we've done in the last episode is that we used the initial tests created with TDD as if you meant it to test indirectly the extracted class. Now in this episode what I'll try to show you is another approach. In this case you'll see how we could get out of TDD as you meant it and just create the regular traditional TDD, this new class, starting from the needs. So what are the needs of this? We can understand if we look in these types of calls to get game result. It's clear that I need a data structure that has board structure, board size, and board. This board is a very bad name, but let's stick to it for now. It's clearly that it's something else. I don't know yet what, but probably I'll be able to come back with a bit better name. Another thing we need to understand is how to test this. So if we want to get back to regular TDD, one approach would be just to add a class, and I will call it board tests. And this class should contain tests with all these things: board structure, board size, and board. So if I want to start step by step, I will just start with a test. And say, I don't know yet. It's clear that I want to test something with board structure. I want to understand what board structure is. And for that I need to look a bit in the code and see how this looks, maybe in the game result. So board structure is passed as a parameter here, and board structure is created here. So it's the vicinity and the direction. If we look a bit lower, what is direction means left, and vicinity means where X is. Okay, so now it's clear that this thing is a string. So this is how I use it. Now I will want to use the same type of as well in the new tests, of course. So let me write this. Since I wanted to introduce this, I want to have board structure. Can build board with correct board structure. This is what I'd like to have. If I have a board, I don't have it yet. And if I would pass to it a board structure, this would be a string. Let's say this would be correct board structure. Then I'd like to assert that board get structure. This would be something like an actual. So I'd like to assert equals that the board structure that I introduced is the same with the actual one. Okay, so now let's create this. I will create a class board in a tic-tac-toe package. This is a string of board structure, and in order to be able to get it, I just create a getter board structure. So I created this. This is wrong. It's board structure. Okay, so now I'm on red. So to make it pass, I need to say this board structure is equal to the board structure. Great. Green, let's commit. I'm on a new branch. So this branch is parallel to the branch I used until now. The branch is called refactor to new class traditional TDD. So I will add the new class and I'll commit saying added new test for board class. Let's also mention for board structure. Okay, so what do we do now? Public void can build board with, what's the next parameter? Not here. I need to look here. So the next parameter is board size. So again, I have a string board size, correct size. I will create a board and I will give it I need to give it a board structure, and I will give it as well a board size. So what I'm doing in this case, I'm saying something like board structure doesn't matter, because I'm not interested in this, and I really want to make explicit these things, and maybe sometimes I even use this like doesn't matter, and you'll see a bit later why I'm doing this. So I have a string actual board get size, and I have an assert equals board size. Come on, board size and the actual. Now, of course, it's complaining it doesn't have this constructor. Now, if I would have, I would do this add string as first parameter to method board, or add string as second parameter to method board. My first test would fail, and I don't want that to happen. So I just create another constructor, because I don't want to, whenever I'm doing TDD, I don't want the previous test to fail. So I'm creating the getter, I created the size. Great. So now if I run this, it's red. The simplest thing to make it pass is just saying this board size. Oh no, it's size. Let's rename this. Okay, if I run this, great. Another commit. Edit test for board size. And let's add the third one. Can build board with and the third one should be board, but it's really a bad name and I don't know what this is, so probably it's a mixture of board size and board structure. So it's a type of board and the board structure. So it's a let's see, could you name this? Sometimes these things are difficult to name. So take the time, don't be afraid. Each one of us has the moments when it's difficult to name things. So I'll call it board template. We'll see where we go from here. So again, I have a string board template. Correct template. And then I have a board. This is another option. So I can do only this using only board template. But look, if you're doing this, you have the same type, and it will call my first constructor. So this one, where I'm talking about structure, in fact. So this isn't a good way to start. This is why typically I prefer how I did in the first test. So if you look carefully, in the first test I started just writing stuff without having them and then generating. Yeah, what you can do is also edit, like in this one, the second test, I just wrote things and I didn't generate them. Now here it's clear that I need to be very careful. So I have strings all over. So the only good option would be to have something like this. So to make sure that I have the full constructor, and board structure doesn't matter. This one again doesn't matter. So I want to focus on only on one thing when testing, and that's why I'm doing this. In the beginning it can be annoying if you do this, but you'll see that things will get a lot nicer after a while. So board get template, and then assert equals board template should be equal with actual. Let's make it compile. I need to go in the back and I can change signature, or I can create a constructor, and I prefer creating a constructor. Those don't matter. This one I'd like to make a parameter. Now I can choose what to bind. I'll just use this one, and just leave it like that for a while. Don't make it a template. And this one, for this one I'd also want to have a getter, which is in fact this. So board template. Great. Let's see if I run this. Great. So I'd like to be green on each test after each thing, because now I made it pass here. This isn't really the red-green refactor cycle, but you know, sometimes you just want to get it over with. It's clear that we're good. So if you're in a hurry and you really want to check it out, that's the code I shouldn't have added. My IDE added it. So sometimes it helps you, but sometimes you fail going through the red cycle and you go directly to green. And it's fine as long as you understand what's going on and why you're doing this, and not forget any reason why you're doing this. Okay, now what do we have? We have 3 constructors, which are kind of messy. And what I'd like to do now is to make things a little nicer, and we'll refactor and we'll create a builder for this. So I'll commit and I'll say added third test for board template. Great. Now what I could do, I could change these tests one by one and use the constructor with 3 parameters. So I could start using this. That's one refactoring I can do, but the truth is that I don't really need these, so I wouldn't want them to exist. So that's why I would like to make things a bit different. And so I'd like to have a builder. I prefer Fluent builders, and that builder will help me write only the necessary code here for each one of these tests, and not have all these things. That doesn't matter. This is just noise. I don't like it. So let's go here and let's create a board builder. A builder should be able to create a board, and now we have a few options. Its main responsibility is to create a board, and as I said, I want to have a Fluent one. I could just write it and start using it in the tests one by one. If it will work well, my builder will be tested indirectly by the tests. So that could be good enough. Another option I have is just to start using TDD on this as well. So it depends on how much safety you need, and it's up to you. For now, for me, this is very simple. I wrote these things too many times, so I will just write it like that, and I will make it. I will use the board tests to test it as well, because I will use the builder in the tests. Sometimes it's really useless to test builders directly. If you'd have some logic, which I don't recommend in the builder, then I would definitely start with TDD for this as well. Okay, so I said I want to have a builder that is fluent, so I prefer having something like this. So board with structure. And I create a field and I return this. And then I need a method that will generate a board, and I will call it build. So here I will just do return new board, and I will pass it the structure. So this is enough for my first test. Here, what I'm doing, in fact, instead of creating the instance here in the test, I'll create it here. Okay. So I need to do a new board builder. With structure. Build. Okay. Let's commit. Added board builder, and using it in the first test for board structure. So public board builder. Now the next test would be with board size. With size. Again, I'm creating the field and I'm returning this. Here I need to give also the size. And here, instead of doing this, I would just create new board builder with size build. So I don't need this anymore. Let's see if this works. Careful, careful. This is, as you see, some tough ground. So don't ever do that. Why? Well, because structure needs to have some kind of default. So maybe if I do this, it will work. Correct board structure, actual null. So it's failing. Can build board with correct board structure. So why is it doing that? Because, well, I'm calling this. Oh yeah, and this one doesn't have the parameter, right? So this board structure Let's see. Okay, so now I'm good. Yeah, I was mistaken. I don't need this probably, and it should work well in these conditions now, although this isn't fair to the board structure. As you can see, this isn't used anymore, so I can start deleting it step by step. This is refactoring in baby steps, what I'm doing now, and I want to be on green as much as possible, always, hopefully. Sometimes you do mistakes, but yeah, that's life. Added with size for board builder. Now if I go back to the board builder, let's add with template. And I want to generate this. I create a field. I return this. And here I need to pass the template. So now in the board tests, what I can do is do a new board builder with template, build. I don't need this anymore. And now what I learned from the last one is that I need to go to board, and this isn't used anymore as it's grayed out, but I need to do again. Let's go back a bit. So I need to do this to use the board structure, and I need to do board size As you can see, I'm leaving this for now just like that, ugly. Doesn't matter. I just want to make it pass, and I want to make sure everything works well. Then we'll do cleanup. Great. Now I have a builder, and I have a board with constructor, and I want to do a commit. Edit method with template for board builder. So let's do a bit of cleanup. Board. So I don't want to use the board name anymore because I have a board. So a board contains a structure. I don't need a duplication. So structure is enough. Size is enough. Template is enough. And sometimes it was a bit smarter. It would tell me, hey, do you want to rename those as well? But yeah, no, it's not. Yes. So get size, get structure, get template. Great. I have now the builder, which is nice. I don't need to add anything. I have the board tests, and here I want to extract this, but before that I want to run the test, make a commit, and continue with refactoring the tests. Refactored the board will have better names. So here should